Reports that Jimbo Fisher is out as head coach at Texas A&M, and the Aggies are scrambling to keep their five-star recruits committed to the program. So in this video, we're going to talk about the top commitments in the Aggies class, who's after them, where they could end up once the dust settles them, or can A&M actually keep them committed? We're going to find out. But first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We are growing this thing. Look, over 20K in 2 months, and there's a lot of recruiting to go. So hit subscribe. All right. Let's bring in national analyst Sam Spiegelman. Sam, the number 7 ranked recruiting class is under attack right now. Look at some of the Aggies' top commitments here in this graphic. Wide receiver Cam Coleman, he's a 5-star. 5-star athlete Terry Bussey. 5-star Dominic McKinley. 4-star Dalen Evans. 4-star Gabriel Reliford. I mean, these are some top recruits committed to A&M that everybody wants. So let's just start right there at the top with Cam Coleman. Now, we know he was at Florida State this weekend for their game against Miami, but what are you hearing right now in terms of his commitment to A&M?
Right. So it was a monster commitment when Damian Craig and Jimbo Fisher went into the state of Alabama this summer and beat out Auburn and Florida State, LSU and Clemson for Cam Coleman. Caught us all a little bit off guard, but what a colossal commitment. And it's really not that surprising when you look at the history of Damian Craig and Cam Coleman, one of the first to offer the 5-star wide receiver before he was even a varsity starter, and then really, kicking it out of the park with those visits in the spring and then the summer. Since he's committed, no one has stopped recruiting Cam Coleman, one of the best players in the country, regardless of position. That includes Florida State, where he was just at for one of the biggest games of the season. And of course, Auburn, which was the favorite on the RPM before he committed to the Aggies. Right now, you have to pay attention to both the Noles, who are recruiting Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith, that are looking for an alpha 5-star wide receiver to complete their 2024 class, as well as Auburn, which of course is picking up steam on the recruiting trail as Hugh Freeze gets his legs warmer and warmer in the plains. And the in-state team has always had its heart set on Cam Coleman. They're not going to go anywhere until December and when he signs.
Yeah. Now, Cam Coleman, though, was taking visits even before this news hit. He visited Gainesville last weekend. He's in Tallahassee. He's been out to the plains, as you've said. He's from Phoenix City, Alabama. So what do you think now with the news that Jimbo Fisher is no longer there? I mean, are you leaning toward him flipping or him sticking?
Yeah, I think, of course, we have to see how this dust settles. We need to see who the new head coach is at Texas A&M. We need to see what the future holds for someone like Damian Craig, who is the primary recruiter for Cam Coleman. A&M has somehow turned the heads of a lot of recruits with the way that Evan Stewart and Anais Smith have been playing. But when you're an out-of-state commitment like Cam Coleman is, especially a 5-star out-of-state commitment, there's too many college football blue bloods and in-state programs to deny. I think it's going to get a little bit murky for Texas A&M as they try to hold on to their out-of-state blue chippers like Coleman.
All right. Well, what about Terry Bussey? He's the number 2 ranked athlete in America. He's 5-star. He's committed to Texas A&M. But like I said, even before this, he was interested in LSU. Today, the news comes out that Jimbo Fisher's gone. He puts up the thinking emoji. Sam, what do you think Terry Bussey's thinking about right now?
Well, he's doing a lot of thinking. I've exchanged a couple of messages with Terry already after the news. I think Terry's in the same spot as a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about and guys that we're not going to talk about. Is they're processing, they're digesting. The thing about Terry Bussey, he was a long-time Texas A&M lean. As an underclassman, he was very high on the Aggies. That only continued over the spring and the summer. And we saw him, he set a date and he tried to make as many official visits as possible. He was at Texas and Oklahoma, LSU and Alabama, and always found his way back to College Station. The relationship with TJ Rushing, with Jimbo Fisher, so many people on that staff led him back to A&M over and over again. But since he committed to A&M, he's been back in Baton Rouge. Like you said, he's continuing to entertain other schools. And I think the fact that Jimbo Fisher is gone, TJ Rushing might have a future elsewhere in the college football ranks. I think that leaves the door open. If he was already considering his other options, he's considering them even stronger now.
All right, let's move on to 5-star defensive lineman Dominic McKinley. Now, I don't think he put out any emojis, so we're just going to speculate here. But he's the number 1 player in Louisiana. Doesn't seem like LSU's in the mix. If Dominic McKinley is to soften up his commitment, who do you think could be the biggest threat to land him?
Yeah, this is interesting because this was Dom McKinley's first visit back to A&M since he committed on September 1st. He has had outstanding game day invitations from not only the Aggies, where he obviously was just at, but Texas, Florida, Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma, all the schools in the SEC have continued to recruit the number one player from the boot, the 6'5", 280-pound alpha defensive lineman. This is one to watch. Elijah Robinson, of course, is the interim head coach right now and the lead recruiter for Don McKinley, who has shown zero signs of wavering from that commitment. We'll see how this impacts him. He has a little brother, Darius, in the 2026 class, who's wanted by all those teams that I just mentioned. Schools like Texas, Oklahoma, and LSU are probably the teams to watch over the last couple of weeks.
All right, now we'll wrap it up with two more four-star defensive linemen that teams are showing interest in, and that's Dalen Evans and Gabriel Reliford. Now, in the beginning, Evans looked like he was going to flip to Florida in June or July. That has kind of died down. Now, Reliford's been talking a lot with LSU. What's your take on these two, and do you think that either of them could be opening up their recruitment soon?
Yeah, I think Dalen Evans has been one of the building blocks of A&M's top 10 recruiting class from East Texas. And like we said, Elijah Robinson's future has a lot to do with the future of Evans. He has not been back to the Swamp since his OV. He's talked about it, but he hasn't been there. He's talked about getting to Alabama. He was supposed to be there for the Texas game. He did not make it. SEC schools continue to recruit Evans, but I think if A&M is able to salvage a lot of the key pieces in this 2024 class, Evans is among the first that they're going to reach out to. He was one of the first to commit, and he's been an anchor for them recruiting other in-state talent. As far as Gabe Reliford, he started to explore his options a little bit even before Jimbo Fisher was fired. He's been to LSU twice this season since collecting an offer, and he's coming off an OV to USC, and USC's confidence has to be escalated now that Jimbo Fisher is out of the picture at A&M. He's someone that has options. He's set to be back at LSU later this month. Would not surprise me if he continues to explore his options and possibly is one of those out-of-state commitments that ends up elsewhere for A&M.
Okay, well, we'll see how that shapes up with their top recruits. But Sam, you and I, we've been through a coaching change or two. And I always think coaching changes when they come to recruiting, it's kind of like the tide. The tide goes out, which is now with A&M when they don't have a coach. It feels like they're going to lose all their commitments. It feels dark. It feels scary. But eventually the tide comes back in. They hire a coach. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of excitement. And you just kind of got to weather that storm. And A&M making the change now, you kind of know that in 3 or 4 weeks, as soon as the season ends, they're going to have a coaching hire in place. So do you think that there's a path where A&M could maintain this number 7 class, some of this top-end talent, so that the next head coach has a strong base to start with?
A&M has a lot of things going for it right now. You look at the roster, the reason that Jimbo Fisher is fired is because it's so star-studded up and down. There's so many former 5- and 4-star recruits that if you're a prospective coach or an offensive-minded coach, a defensive-minded coach, you can go in and compete in the SEC, not in 2 years, but next year. I think the fact that it's in the middle of Texas, Jimbo Fisher has really laid the groundwork for recruiting in the state of Texas for A&M. They've been recruiting on the same level as Alabama and Texas and LSU and Oklahoma. They're getting some of the best guys. I think that there's all the resources in place. Will they hold on to a top 10 class? That might be a little bit optimistic considering the guys like Cam Coleman and Gabe Reliford, who are blue chippers from out of state. It just seems like the tide might be flowing out there. But you definitely see a path where they can hold on to a lot of their blue chip in-state guys like Terry Bussey, like Don McKinley, who's been leaning toward A&M over a lot of other schools, guys like Ty Anthony Smith from Jasper, a lot of these key pieces and have a great nucleus to work with. And then when they hire the coach and all that momentum and positivity and optimism are back, maybe strike while the iron is hot a little bit toward signing day.
All right. Well, it's a shaky situation right now with the Texas A&M Aggies. But Sam, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop, breaking it all down.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.